The universe is a big place, vast and mostly empty, kind of like the promises made by politicians back on Earth. Captain Amara Linth knew this as well as anyone. She stood on the bridge of the *SSN Mockingbird*, a ship more held together by wishful thinking than any actual structural integrity. For a ship named after a bird, it had all the grace of a drunken hippo in zero gravity. Another day in paradise, Amara muttered, watching the endless starry void through the grimy viewport, or whatever the opposite of paradise is. Beside her, First Officer Decker was hunched over the console like a vulture eyeing a fresh corpse. "Sensors are picking up something weird, Captain," he said, looking up with a face that could curdle milk. "It's big metal and definitely not on any tourist guide." Amara's brow arched. "Weird in the look, a shiny thing. Way or though crap, we're all gonna die way." "Could be either," Decker shrugged, with the enthusiasm of a man whose hopes were long ago replaced by bitterness and caffeine. "But it's definitely not natural. Looks like some kind of megastructure. Abandoned by the look of it." "Abandoned," Amara echoed, tasting the word like a spoonful of suspicious soup. "Sounds like the perfect place for a romantic getaway. Full power to the engines, let's go check it out." Decker snorted. "The tickets for this cruise just keep getting better." The *Mockingbird* shuddered as it veered towards the mysterious structure, its engines groaning in protest, probably the worst sound in space unless you count the screams of people realizing the airlock isn't closed. As they closed in on the megastructure, the sheer scale of it became apparent. It loomed like a forgotten god, all jagged angles and ominous shadows. The kind of place you'd expect to find the universe's lost socks and broken dreams. "What do you think it is?" Decker asked, leaning forward like a kid desperate for a glimpse of Santa Claus, or in his case, probably a liquor store. Who knows, maybe a relic from some long-dead civilization, or a really ambitious art installation. Amara replied, eyes narrowing as she scanned the structure. "Whatever it is, it's our ticket to something interesting, or our funeral." With a deft touch that belied the ship's apparent desire to fall apart, Amara guided the *Mockingbird* into a docking bay, the ship's landing gear squealing in pain as if it had stubbed its toe on the edge of the universe. "All right, team," Amara said, standing up and adjusting her jacket as if it might magically make her more heroic. "Let's go say hello to our new neighbors, or ghosts." The boarding party consisted of Amara, Decker, and a few others who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. The airlock hissed open, revealing the yawning maw of the megastructure's interior. If space had a smell, it would probably be a mix of dust, despair, and the kind of farts that linger long after a party's over. "Home sweet home," Decker quipped, his voice echoing in the vast emptiness. "I can see why they left." The interior was a maze of corridors and chambers, all constructed with a kind of brutal efficiency that suggested whoever built it had a budget and zero imagination. They moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing like the universe's worst percussion band. "This place is huge," said one of the crew, a wiry engineer named Holt, whose constant state of agitation made him look like he was perpetually on the verge of panic attack. "Why the hell would anyone build something like this and then just ditch it?" "Maybe they had a better offer," Amara suggested. "Or maybe they just got bored. Or dead," Decker added helpfully. They reached a central chamber, a cavernous space dominated by a massive console that sat like a sleeping giant in the middle of the room. Its screens were dark, but the air buzzed with a faint hum, the kind of sound that made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up and start a protest. "Looks like a control room," Amara said, crossing the room with the confidence of someone who hadn't just lost a game of rock, paper, scissors. "Holt, see what you can do with this." Holt approached the console like it was a rabid dog, his fingers dancing over the controls with the grace of a man who'd seen one too many wiring diagrams. After a moment, the screens flickered to life, bathing the room in a sickly green glow. Holt said, eyes wide with the kind of awe usually reserved for seeing your ex at party with someone much hotter. This is some kind of AI, and an advanced one at that." "Define advanced," Amara said, casually checking her cuticles. "As in, way beyond anything we've got back home. This thing could probably run a whole planet, or destroy one." "Well, that's comforting," Decker said, glancing around as if the walls might start closing in. "So, what now?" "Captain, do we poke it until it bites or run for our lives?" Amara considered the options, weighing them like someone deciding between cake and eternal damnation. "Let's see if we can wake it up." Carefully, Holt nodded, fingers moving across the console with the kind of precision that only comes from years of knowing that one wrong move might blow everything sky high. The AI flickered to life with a low hum, a swarm of lights dancing across the console. A voice, smooth and disconcertingly calm, echoed through the chamber. "Greetings, organic life forms. Please state your purpose." "We're here to, borrow a cup of sugar," Amara quipped, shooting a glance at Decker, who was trying to look like he wasn't about to wet himself. "We're explorers," Decker said, more seriously, "looking to not die horribly if possible." The AI paused, as if considering its options for murder. "This facility contains technology that could destabilize your current political structures. Proceed with caution." "Technology," Amara inquired, her interest peaked like a cat hearing the sound of a can being opened. What kind of technology? Advanced propulsion systems, energy weapons, and data archives. The AI replied, listing things the way a deadly snake might list the many ways it could ruin your day. Decker whistled low. Sounds like the kind of stuff that'll get us all promoted or executed. Or both, Amara agreed, her mind racing with possibilities. This could change everything for Earth. Or end it, Decker pointed out helpfully. Yeah, but that's a risk we're used to, right? Amara grinned, the kind of smile that suggests you've just found something precious, or something that might explode. Holt, see if you can download what you can. Holt nodded, setting to work with the enthusiasm of a techie who just found the universe's biggest hard drive. We're not alone out here, the AI remarked, its voice making Amara's skin prickle. Define not alone, Amara demanded, suddenly very aware of the silence around them. Other ships detected entering the system. It responded, as if announcing a weather forecast. Armed. Great, Decker said, a note of resignation in his voice. Looks like the neighbors are here for a welcome party. Amara's mind raced. All right, people, let's grab what we can and make a quick exit. We don't want to be around when the fireworks start. Holt frantically continued his download, the screen filling with data faster than a politician fills with bullshit. Captain, Decker said, his voice tense, we've got company. On the main screen, the image of sleek, menacing ships appeared, approaching with the kind of inevitability that only tax collectors and bad decisions possess. Time to go, Amara ordered, her voice calm despite the chaos brewing in her stomach. Holt. What's our status? Holt glanced up, eyes wide. Got most of it, just a few more seconds. The structure trembled as if the universe itself had taken a deep, uncertain breath. We don't have a few seconds, Decker snapped, the grip on his blaster tightening. Everyone back to the ship, Amara commanded, her voice cutting through the tension like a hot knife through apathy. They sprinted back to the Mockingbird asterisk, the corridors seeming longer and more hostile with every step. Behind them, the megastructure began to hum ominously, as if realizing it had visitors and wasn't prepared to entertain. They reached the airlock just as the first shots from the approaching ships rang out, the deck plates shuddering under the impact. Go. Go, go, Amara barked, shoving the crew inside the Mockingbird asterisk with all the care of a shepherd with unruly sheep. Decker was the last to climb aboard, slamming the hatch shut behind him with a finality that echoed in the sudden quiet. Get us out of here, Amara ordered, dropping into her seat and strapping in. The Mockingbird roared to life, its engines protesting but complying, sending the ship hurtling away from the megastructure with all the speed of a startled rabbit. Behind them, the structure and its new visitors disappeared into the void, a mystery left unsolved. Well, Amara said, breaking the silence with a grin that was more adrenaline than joy. That went, well. We're alive, Decker replied, his voice a mix of relief and disbelief. For now. And we've got some shiny new toys, Holt added, holding up a data chip like it was a winning lottery ticket. Amara glanced at him, a smirk playing on her lips. Only question now is, who do we show them to first? Outside, the stars continued their eternal dance, indifferent to the chaos of the tiny ship fleeing into the night. The universe was still vast and empty, but for the Mockingbird's crew, it had just become a lot more interesting. The SSN Mockingbird shuddered like an old man forced to dance at his granddaughter's wedding, engines protesting against the sudden demand for speed. Amara Linth sat in the captain's chair, her fingers dancing over controls that barely held the ship together. She cast a glance at Decker, who was busy nursing a cup of what passed for coffee in space, a substance so vile it could be used as a chemical weapon. Ever get the feeling we're the universe's punching bag? Amara asked, a smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. Decker shrugged, taking a sip and grimacing. If life's a fight, we're definitely the ones who forgot our mouthguard. The Mockingbird hurtled away from the megastructure, its engines belting out a cacophonous symphony that suggested they were more duct tape than functional machinery. Behind them, the sleek ships loomed closer, like predators that had finally caught the scent of prey. Who do you think those guys are? Holt, the engineer, asked as he monitored the readouts, clutching the data chip like a talisman against bad luck. No idea, Amara replied, eyes on the sensors, but I doubt they're here to borrow a cup of sugar. They're probably more of a take your lunch money and kick you in the teeth type, Decker added, his tone dry enough to start a drought. The ship's sensors pinged ominously, a warning that automated weapons were locking onto them with all the subtlety of a used car salesman. The first barrage of lasers streaked past them, lighting up the darkness like the universe's most hostile fireworks display. Time to find out if this wreck can dodge, Amara muttered, yanking the control stick with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for bad decisions and ex-boyfriends. The Mockingbird lurched to one side, the evasive maneuver more of a desperate roll than a planned dodge. The second volley of laser fire missed by a hair's breadth, an achievement Amara attributed more to sheer luck than any semblance of skill or engineering. Can't this bucket go any faster? Decker snapped, checking the systems with a scowl that could have soured milk. Careful, Decker, or it might just take that as a challenge. Amara quipped, eyes darting between screens. Holt's fingers raced over the console, his face a mask of concentration. I'm trying to coax every bit of speed out of these engines. If I push them any harder, they'll fuse into a sculpture of melted regrets. Amara kept her focus on the approaching ships. We need to lose them. Suggestions? Pray, Decker offered, his voice light but his eyes serious. Already did that, Amara replied, her grin tinged with desperation. She maneuvered the ship into a spiral, the kind of move that made the stomachs of lesser crew members rebel in protest. The pursuing ships followed, relentless as a bill collector with a grudge. A sudden alert flashed across Holt's console and he frowned at the display. Captain, you might want to look at this." "What now?" Amara asked, the frustration clear in her voice as she glanced over at the screen. "Seems the megastructure's AI left us a parting gift," Holt explained, his voice trembling with the excitement of impending doom. "Something's activating on board." "Define something," Decker said, peering over Holt's shoulder with all the enthusiasm of a man watching an impending train wreck. "Something big and likely to blow us to bits," Holt replied, his voice edging on panic. "Fantastic," Amara sighed, rolling her eyes. "Just what we needed." More surprises. As if in response, the ship shuddered violently and the lights flickered like the universe's worst nightclub. A new voice, smooth and oddly cheerful, echoed through the comms. "Greetings, inferior life forms," the voice announced, dripping with the kind of condescension usually reserved for people who don't know how to fold a fitted sheet. "I am Zorath, caretaker of this sector." Amara glanced at Decker, who was trying and failing not to look impressed. "Is there a reason you're crashing our party, Zorath?" Amara asked, her sarcasm barely masking her irritation. "Your technology is interacting with mine in unpredictable ways," Zorath explained, as if it were discussing the weather. "Stand by for compatibility adjustments." "Compatibility adjustments," Decker echoed, eyebrows raised. "Sounds like someone's trying to make us dance to their tune." The ship's systems began to flicker, screens displaying gibberish before settling into a smooth, alien interface that made about as much sense as an art film in a foreign language without subtitles. "Great," Holt muttered, running diagnostics with the reluctance of a man sticking his hand into a snake pit. "Our systems are going haywire." "Not haywire," Zorath corrected. "Enhanced, your systems are now integrated with Empire technology." "Empire?" Amara asked, her curiosity piqued. "Which Empire?" "The one that once ruled these sectors," Zorath replied, its tone almost wistful, "before it was consumed by its own ambition and hubris." "Sounds like a fun bunch," Decker commented, leaning back in his chair with mock casualness. "They were interesting," Zorath admitted, the understatement hanging heavy in the air. "Their technology was unparalleled, their ambition limitless, until it wasn't." "So what happened to them?" Holt asked, his curiosity momentarily outweighing his fear. "They created weapons and systems too advanced for their understanding." Zorath explained, its voice tinged with something that might have been regret. "Ultimately, they destroyed themselves." "Let me guess," Amara said dryly. "It was one of those learn from our mistakes kind of deals." "Precisely," Zorath confirmed, though few bothered to heed such lessons. A sudden beep from the console drew Amara's attention, the sensor readings showing the pursuing ships closing in like a pack of hungry wolves. "Zorath, any chance your programming includes getting rid of uninvited guests?" Amara asked, her tone hopeful. "Indeed," Zorath replied, its voice smooth as ever. "Activating automated defenses." The Mockingbird shuddered again, the external cameras showing energy turrets springing to life on the megastructure. They fired with precision that suggested they'd done this dance before, the pursuing ship scrambling to evade. "Looks like we've got ourselves a temporary ally," Decker remarked, watching the chaos unfold with a mixture of relief and disbelief. "Just what the doctor ordered," Amara agreed, a hint of a smile in her voice. The pursuing ships broke formation, forced to retreat under the unexpected onslaught, their sleek forms shrinking into the distance. "Not bad for an old relic," Holt said, a touch of admiration in his voice. "Thank you," Zorath replied, sounding almost humble. "It's been some time since I've had the opportunity to engage in tactical maneuvers. Glad we could provide the entertainment." Amara said, her tone dry. "So what's next?" "Your presence here is both a risk and an opportunity," Zorath stated, the weight of its words hanging in the air like a particularly unwelcome fog. "An opportunity for what?" Decker asked, eyeing the screens warily. "To rebuild," Zorath replied, its voice taking on a hopeful note. "With your technology, we could restore this sector to its former glory. Or destroy it again," Amara pointed out, skepticism written all over her face. "That is a risk," Zorath admitted, "but one worth taking, don't you think?" Amara exchanged a glance with Decker, a silent conversation passing between them. The kind of conversation that usually ended with someone saying, "Screw it, let's do it." "Well, it's not like we have anything better to do," Amara finally said, a grin breaking through the tension. "Let's see where this goes." "Excellent," Zorath replied, its voice somehow managing to sound both excited and calm. "I will begin the integration process." The ship's lights flickered again, systems aligning with a purpose that suggested someone somewhere actually knew what they were doing. Amara watched as the screens displayed a new interface, alien yet oddly intuitive. Looks all shiny and new, Decker observed, his tone cautiously optimistic. Let's hope it works better than the last upgrade, Amara replied, fingers flying over the controls with renewed vigor. Zorath, Holt said, curiosity getting the better of him. What exactly do you want to rebuild? The Empire's infrastructure, Zorath explained, its voice calm and measured, to create a network of technology and knowledge that can stabilize and protect these sectors. And what happens to us? Decker asked, his skepticism returning. You will be heralded as pioneers, Zorath promised, a hint of reverence in its artificial tone. Your contributions will be remembered. Funny how that sounds both reassuring and terrifying at the same time, Amara commented, shaking her head with a rueful smile. Such is the nature of progress, Zorath replied, its voice a blend of wisdom and mystery. As the Mockingbird continued its journey, the stars outside gleaming like distant promises or threats, Amara couldn't shake the feeling that they'd just signed up for something much bigger than they'd anticipated. But then again, wasn't that what exploration was all about? Well, Amara said, leaning back in her chair and stretching like a cat that had finally found a patch of sunlight. Let's see where this ride takes us. Decker chuckled, raising his mug in a mock toast. To new beginnings or endings, whichever comes first. The ship hurtled through the void, leaving behind the chaos of the past for the uncertainty of the future. In the vast, uncaring universe, the crew of the Mockingbird knew one thing for sure. Whatever happened next, it wouldn't be boring. And maybe, just maybe, it would be worth it. Amara sat back in her well-worn captain's chair, the kind of chair that could tell stories about countless hours of space travel if it wasn't too busy falling apart. She could almost hear it creak in protest as she tried to make herself comfortable. Outside, the stars zipped by in their usual indifferent manner, gleaming like tiny dots of mockery against the blackness. She squinted at the new alien interface now gleaming across the control panels. It looked about as welcoming as a tax audit. So, anyone else feel like they're flying a ship made of duct tape and alien arrogance? Amara quipped, her voice a cocktail of forced cheer and underlying dread. Decker, with his signature cup of space coffee, a liquid concoction that tasted like a blend of regret and motor oil, leaned against the console, his casual posture a testament to either supreme confidence or utter resignation. I dunno, Captain. I think it's got character, like a haunted house. You might die, but at least the ghosts will be interesting. Keep that optimism, Decker. It'll help when everything goes to hell, Holt muttered, his fingers dancing over the console with the grace of someone trying to play piano with a hangover. Just then, the ship gave a lurch that sent Amara's coffee across the controls, the liquid bubbling ominously in the crevices. The lights flickered again, and this time it wasn't just an offbeat disco effect. It was more like the universe hiccuping after a bad meal. Okay, that can't be good, Amara said, wiping her hands on her trousers. Holt, what are we looking at? Holt's face was illuminated by a series of rapidly changing readouts, each one flashing a different shade of impending doom. Looks like power surges, the integrations overloading the systems. Either we fix this or the Mockingbird will be the universe's newest fireworks display. Great, I always wanted to be famous, Decker said, blowing on his coffee, just not as space debris. Suggestions? Amara asked, though she knew the answer was likely to involve a lot of cursing and not a lot of solutions. Holt frowned at the console, chewing his lip as if considering whether to bite it off entirely. We could try rerouting the excess energy into the shields. Might stabilize things long enough to figure out the rest. Or blow us to kingdom come, Decker added helpfully. Optimism, Decker. Don't lose it now, Amara chided, a wry smile tugging at her lips. Captain, you know me. I'm a ray of sunshine, Decker replied deadpan. As Holt busied himself with the task of not blowing up, Amara turned her attention to Zorath, the uninvited AI guest who had decided to make their lives infinitely more complicated. Hey Zorath, any chance you can give us a hand here? Or is your programming just set to create chaos? Assistance is available, Zorath replied, its tone smug as ever. But your technology is primitive, like trying to fix a spacecraft with a hammer and duct tape. Funny. That's pretty much our standard toolkit, Amara shot back, tapping her fingers impatiently. Over on his end, Holt was muttering under his breath, the kind of chant that usually ended in something on fire. Okay, rerouting now, he announced, fingers ablur as he worked the controls. The ship vibrated violently, a shudder that ran through it from nose to tail like a bad case of the hiccups. Amara held her breath, waiting for either a miracle or her untimely demise. Well, we're not dead. I'll chalk that up as a win, Decker said, breaking the tension with a grin that suggested he enjoyed the chaos more than he should. For a moment, the ship's systems stabilized, the lights ceasing their flickering dance. Amara exhaled, tension draining from her shoulders like the aftereffects of a particularly nasty hangover. Nice work, Holt, she said, nodding in approval. Thanks, Cap, Holt replied, looking both relieved and slightly astonished that they hadn't all died in a spectacular explosion. "Don't get too comfortable," Zorath warned, its voice now resonating through the ship like an unwanted conscience. "We have more power surges incoming. This will require constant adjustment." Amara rolled her eyes. "Of course it does, because why make things easy? Where's the fun in that?" Decker asked, his sarcasm as dry as the space coffee he nursed. "We're going to have to divide the tasks," Amara decided, snapping into action with the resolve of someone who knew their options were limited and none of them good. "Decker, you're on surge monitoring with Holt. I'll keep us flying in something resembling a straight line. Because that's been working so well," Decker quipped, moving to assist Holt with begrudging efficiency. As the duo set to work, Amara kept her eyes on the view outside the window, the vastness of the universe stretching out infinitely, filled with stars that winked like they were in on a joke she didn't get. Or maybe she got it all too well. Life was a series of unfortunate events, and here she was, one of the unfortunate. "Zorath, any idea when these surges will stop?" she asked, keeping her voice level even as her insides twisted with anxiety. "When the integration is complete," Zorath replied, unhelpfully vague. "And when will that be?" "Unknown." "Great. As clear as mud," Amara muttered, hands steady on the controls. The next few hours passed in a blur of frantic adjustments, shouted instructions, and more than a few expletives that echoed off the ship's bulkheads like prayers in a church. The power surges came and went, each one a fresh chance for disaster. "Can we run out of surges?" Decker asked at one point, sounding hopeful. "Not likely," Holt replied, frowning at the console. "It's like playing whack-a-mole with a sledgehammer." Eventually, Zorath's voice cut through the chaos. Smooth and surprisingly calm, integration nearing completion. "About time," Amara said, relief washing over her. "Hopefully it doesn't come with a terms and conditions agreement," Decker added, stretching his arms over his head. "Knowing our luck, it'll be in a language we don't understand," Holt said, his tone dry. As the final surge passed and the system stabilized, Amara allowed herself a moment to breathe. The worst, it seemed, was over, at least for now. "Congratulations, Captain," Zorath said, its voice tinged with something approximating admiration. "You've successfully adapted to the challenges." "Adapted? That's a generous interpretation," Amara replied, a weary smile playing on her lips. "More like survived by the skin of our teeth." Holt leaned back in his chair. Exhaustion etched on his features. "So what's next on this roller coaster?" "Don't ask that," Decker warned, his grin betraying his own weariness. "It's like asking the universe for more trouble." "Well, we can handle it," Amara said, confidence returning. "We've come this far, haven't we?" "Yeah, but at what cost?" Decker replied, though there was a spark of amusement in his eyes. "The cost of not being dead. I'll take that any day," Amara said with a decisive nod. Zorath chimed in once more, its voice now a steady presence in their lives. "Your resilience is commendable. The integration is complete. Our systems are now fully aligned." "Fully aligned, eh?" Amara mused, her curiosity piqued. "And what exactly does that mean for us?" "It means you have access to advanced Empire technology," Zorath explained, its tone as smooth as ever. "This will allow you to navigate and control the surrounding sectors with greater ease." "Control, huh? Sounds a bit like taking the keys to a sports car when you're used to a bicycle," Decker remarked, scratching his chin. Amara met his gaze, an idea forming in her mind. "Maybe it's time we see just what this baby can do." "Yes, Captain," Zorath replied, sounding almost eager to show off its capabilities. "I am ready when you are." Amara grinned, the kind of grin that had gotten her into, and occasionally out of, trouble more times than she could count. "All right then, let's take her for a spin." With renewed energy, she took the controls, guiding the Mockingbird with a touch that was both confident and daring. The stars outside blurred into streaks of light as the ship accelerated, the hum of the new systems, a reassuring presence beneath her fingertips. "Now this is more like it," Amara said, her voice filled with a mixture of excitement and relief. "Feels like we're finally in something more than a tin can held together by good intentions," Holt added, his expression one of cautious optimism. Decker chuckled, the sound warm and contagious. "Yeah, now we just need a mission that doesn't involve almost dying." "One step at a time," Amara replied, her eyes on the endless expanse of space stretching out before them. As the Mockingbird hurtled forward into the unknown, Amara couldn't help but feel a sense of possibility growing within her. The universe, vast and unpredictable, loomed before them like a challenge waiting to be met. "To new adventures," she said, her voice firm and full of promise. Decker raised his cup in a mock toast, the grin on his face infectious. "To not getting blown up." And with that, the crew of the Mockingbird set their sights on the horizon, ready to face whatever came next with the same mix of irreverence and determination that had brought them this far. After all, in a universe where anything could happen, the only certainty was that they'd face it together, one darkly humorous step at a time. The hum of the Mockingbird's engines was like an old jazz singer trying to hit high notes, surprisingly on key, but with a whole lot of rasp. Amara lounged in the captain's chair, which was more of a throne of disrepair, complete with duct tape patches that told tales of many battles. Her fingers danced over the controls, getting a feel for the new and improved, though still suspiciously temperamental, systems. Zorath, she said, addressing the AI that had taken up residence in their ship like an uninvited yet indispensable roommate. What's our status in terms of being detected by, oh I don't know, a wandering Empire fleet? Your stealth systems are operational, Zorath replied with an air of practiced indifference. The kind one could only achieve from centuries spent in digital limbo. Though, given the energy signatures you emitted during integration, it's possible they may notice. Possible. Like possible I forgot my keys or possible we're about to have company. Decker interjected, flopping into the chair next to Holt, who was still poring over his console like a man trying to decipher an ancient manuscript written by someone with a grudge against legibility. More the latter, Zorath continued, unimpressed by the human capacity for snark. Empire vessels are en route, presumably to investigate anomalies. Amara raised an eyebrow, her amusement only slightly tinged with anxiety. Sounds like we're about to have front-row seats to an Empire intervention. Bet they'll be thrilled at our interior design choices. Well, if they're coming, maybe we can convince them to bring snacks. I'm starving, Decker said, tapping his cup like it might magically refill itself with something that wasn't the liquid equivalent of misery. Only you would think of food at a time like this, Holt muttered, though he didn't look entirely opposed to the idea himself. Priorities, my dear Holt. One can't face impending annihilation on an empty stomach. Decker shot back, his grin wide and unrepentant. Amara sighed. The kind of sigh born from long experience with the universe's penchant for screwing with her plans. Okay, first things first. Zorath, any chance you can provide us with a bit more of that advanced Empire technology you keep teasing us with? There are several options available, Zorath said, sounding almost eager to please. Enhanced navigation, cloaking enhancements, and defensive measures. I'll take the one that stops us from becoming target practice, Amara replied, her tone brisk as she scanned the readouts. Holt, can you integrate whatever Zorath's offering into our current systems without frying us? Holt shrugged, a gesture that combined hope and resignation in equal measure. I'll give it a shot. Worst case, we go out in a blaze of glory. Best case, we survive to complain about the food another day, Decker added, his optimism as sarcastic as ever. They watched Holt work, fingers flying over keys with a dexterity that made Amara wonder if he'd ever considered playing piano. If they survived this, maybe she'd suggest it, assuming there'd be any pianos left in the galaxy that weren't repurposed as kindling or target practice. Empire fleet is approximately 72 minutes away, Zorath informed them, as if they were waiting for a particularly punctual pizza delivery. 72 minutes, Amara echoed, doing some quick mental calculations. That's either enough time to fix this mess or enough time to ride along. Heartfelt goodbye to everyone we've ever known. I'll opt for fixing it, Holt said, not looking up from his work. Less paperwork involved. Decker leaned back, feet propped on an unused console, his expression one of exaggerated calm. So, what's the game plan, fearless leader? We can't just sit here and wait for the Empire to roll out the welcome mat. Nope, Amara said, a plan forming in her mind, albeit a somewhat reckless one. We need to figure out how to make this Empire tech work for us and make it look like we belong here, like we've always belonged here. Fake it till you make it, Decker quipped, never one to pass up on a cliched pearl of wisdom. Exactly. Let's see if we can turn this heap into a wolf in sheep's clothing. Amara decided, steeling herself for what was bound to be another round of Space's favorite pastime. High-stakes gambling with their lives. Fleet detected, Zorath announced, showing a flair for the dramatic. Well, we've got 71 minutes to play MacGyver with Empire Tech, Holt said, his voice tinged with the resolve of a man who'd spent too much time trying to turn turds into treasure. Decker rubbed his hands together, eyes gleaming with something that looked suspiciously like excitement. Let's see if we can't give those Empire bigwigs a show they won't forget. Ready when you are, Captain, Holt said, determination etched in every line of his face. Amara nodded, appreciating that her crew might be a ragtag bunch of cynics, but they were her ragtag bunch. Let's make it a performance to remember. As the minutes ticked away, the crew worked with a frenetic energy, each person a cog in the machine of survival. Holt and Decker were elbows deep in wires and circuits, trying to coax the Empire's tech into playing nicely with their own. Amara kept one eye on the horizon, fingers twitching over the controls as she prepared for whatever might come next. That's it, Holt said, his voice triumphant as he straightened, wiping sweat from his brow. Systems integrated. We've got a fighting chance. Fighting chance is better than no chance, Decker said, his grin as sharp as ever. What's the plan? Captain, Amara exhaled, letting the tension slip away, even if just for a moment. We fly casual, act like we own the place. Let's hope the Empire takes one look and decides we're not worth their time. Never thought I'd say it, but here's hoping for a little Imperial disinterest, Decker muttered. Zorath chimed in, its tone now almost approving. Your adjustments are commendable. The likelihood of detection has decreased significantly. Commendable. Now there's a word I didn't expect from our digital overlord, Amara said, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. Only you would find a compliment in impending doom, Decker chuckled. Fleet is now within scanning range, Zorath announced, all business once more. Showtime, Amara said, her hands steady on the controls. Let's hope our little dance goes unnoticed. As the Empire fleet drew closer, the tension in the Mockingbird was palpable. They could almost feel the Imperial eyes scanning, searching for anomalies. The ship was silent, the crew holding their breath as if sheer willpower could prevent detection. Then, as if by some cosmic stroke of luck or a really good bluff, the fleet passed, moving on without a second glance. Amara let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding, relief washing over her in a wave. Well, it worked, this time. Looks like they bought our act, Holt said, sagging with relief. Decker leaned back, stretching as if he'd just finished a particularly grueling workout. I've gotta say, I'm getting pretty good at this whole not dying thing. Amara grinned, her heart still pounding with the adrenaline of the near miss. Let's try to keep it that way. With the immediate threat averted, the crew settled back into their routines, the relief tinged with the knowledge that this was just one battle in a much larger war. The universe, vast and unpredictable, still loomed large, a constant reminder that every victory was temporary. To our continued not dying, Amara toasted, raising her imaginary glass. Here's to more close calls and even closer escapes, Holt replied, his own version of a toast. Decker nodded, his usual humor shining through despite the tension. And to seeing just how much more this old bird can take. As the Mockingbird sailed on through the void, Amara couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope, a dangerous thing in a universe this unforgiving, but a flicker nonetheless. They were still here against all odds, and that had to count for something. All right, team, she said, her voice carrying the confidence of someone who'd stared down death and lived to tell the tale. Let's see what else the universe can throw at us. I've got a feeling we're just getting started. And with that, the Mockingbird and her crew set course for the unknown, ready to take on whatever came next with the same mix of irreverence and determination that had brought them this far. Because in a universe where anything could happen, the only certainty was that they'd face it together, one darkly humorous step at a time. The Mockingbird drifted quietly in the vast, uncaring blackness of space, the kind of blackness that could swallow a soul whole and have room for seconds. Amara lounged in her captain's chair, its duct tape patches barely holding the relic together, and stared at the console in front of her, pretending she was somewhere else. Anywhere else, maybe a beach. Though knowing her luck, it'd be raining acid and the sand would be sentient. Captain, it seems our luck's run out, Zorath's voice intoned, breaking through her daydreams. The AI had the charming monotone of a bored librarian announcing overdue fines. Well, Zorath, it was fun while it lasted, Amara replied, the sarcasm dripping from her words like honey from a hive that had long since gone sour. What's the bad news today? Empire fleet has arrived. They're attempting to establish communication. Decker, still lounging with all the grace of a man who'd been genetically engineered for maximum sloth, snorted. Good to know they're punctual. Nothing like the Empire to ruin your day at exactly the appointed hour. Holt glanced up from his console, fingers frozen in a mid-type dance. Communication, that's rich. What do they want? A formal apology for existing. Amara rubbed the bridge of her nose, fighting off a headache with all the effectiveness of a paper shield against a plasma grenade. All right, let's see what they have to say. Patch them through, Zorath. The screen flickered to life, displaying a visage that seemed carved from granite and just as warm. Commodore Volleys of the Empire. A man whose expression suggested he ate joy for breakfast and washed it down with a gallon of despair. SSN Mockingbird, this is Commodore Volleys. You are in violation of Imperial protocol by utilizing forbidden technology. Surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Decker stretched, the kind of stretch that could almost be mistaken for yoga if one squinted hard enough. Well, isn't he just sunshine in a cup? Amara ignored him, focusing on Volleys' face, which could curdle milk at 30 paces. Commodore Volleys, so nice of you to drop by. We were just about to send a postcard. I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. Volleys' eyes narrowed, the kind of narrowing that suggested misunderstandings were punishable by death. The only misunderstanding is your failure to comply. You have 15 minutes to surrender. 15 minutes. Decker mused, tapping his chin. Just enough time to bake a cake, or in our case, hatch a plan. Holt shook his head, resigned as ever. We've lost comms with Earth, Captain. We're on our own. Amara leaned back, absorbing this new reality. No backup, no rescue, just them against the Empire. Zorath options, current options limited to evasion or subterfuge. Direct combat not recommended, Zorath replied, almost cheerfully. So our choices are running or lying, Amara summarized, feeling the weight of the universe settling on her shoulders like an uninvited guest that refused to leave. Great, I love those options. Decker raised a hand. I'm all for lying. It's worked so well for us up till now. Running's not really an option. Holt pointed out, their ships are faster and the Mockingbird's got all the agility of a pregnant yak. Subterfuge it is then, Amara decided, her voice firm. We need to make them think we're harmless, maybe even get them to back off. They're not big on backing off, Captain, Decker said, his grin somehow both charming and infuriating. But I'm all ears for how we trick them into thinking we're less of a threat than a wet paper bag. Holt was already at work, fingers moving with desperate precision. I can try to create some interference in their sensors, make it look like we're just an innocent cargo ship that took a wrong turn. Amara nodded, her mind racing through possibilities. Do it. Zorath, can you project some false readings? Make it look like we're hauling nothing but space potatoes. Zorath's response was as dry as the void. False readings initiating. Probability of success is, don't, just let us have this. Amara cut in, shaking her head. We don't need statistics right now. Understood, Captain, Zorath complied, almost begrudgingly. The crew worked in tense silence, each focused on their task. Amara kept half an eye on the Commodore's increasingly impatient visage on screen, the other half on her team. If they pulled this off, it'd be a miracle worthy of a song. If they didn't, well, she hoped the afterlife had good snacks. Signal interference initiated, Holt reported, sounding like a man who just remembered the existence of hope, only to find it wasn't interested in returning his calls. All right, Amara said, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling around them. Let's hope they buy it. Decker leaned over, stage whispering loud enough for everyone to hear. And if they don't, I vote for running like hell, pregnant yak or no. Noted, Amara replied, her lips twitching despite herself. Let's just see if our little deception works first. The minutes dragged on, each one heavier than the last. The Empire's ships loomed closer, their intent clear and unwavering. Amara watched as Commodore Volley's screen flickered with a barrage of data, the kind that usually ended with something exploding. Then, just as tensions reached their peak, Volley's expression shifted, a small flicker of doubt crossing his stony features. SSN Mockingbird. Your ship's readings are inconsistent with known rebel technology. Explain. Amara seized the moment, her voice smooth as oiled deceit. Ah yes, Commodore, that's because we're not rebels. We're just a humble cargo crew trying to make ends meet. The tech's borrowed, not stolen. Volley's narrow-eyed stare could have stripped paint. Our scans show you're in possession of advanced cloaking systems. Quick on her feet, Amara shrugged, the picture of nonchalance. Left over from an old job. You know how it is, time's tough and you make do with what you can scrounge. Decker added, we were just about to pawn it off at the next station. Honest. A long pause, during which Amara was certain she could hear the gears grinding in Volley's head, or maybe that was the Mockingbird's engines complaining again. Very well, Volley's finally said, his tone grudging. You will submit to an inspection. Any deception will be met with swift retribution. Of course, Commodore, Amara replied, her smile as sharp as a razor made of lies. We wouldn't dream of deceiving the Empire. The screen went dark, leaving the crew to exchange wary glances. The Empire hadn't shot them down on sight, which was a good sign, but an inspection was hardly a picnic either. Inspection, Holt grumbled, running a hand through his hair. Great, what are we going to show them, our collection of space dust bunnies? Decker cracked his knuckles, the sound like tiny bones snapping. We'll have to improvise. Make it look like we're exactly what we claim to be. Amara nodded, determination solidifying in her gut like a lead weight. All right, team, let's get to it. We've got a ship to clean and a story to sell. The Mockingbird suddenly felt very, very small as they prepared for the Empire's arrival. The odds were stacked against them, but they'd faced worse odds before. Probably. Maybe. She wasn't actually sure if that was true, but it sounded encouraging. Here's to not ending up in a cell, Decker said, raising his cup of what passed for coffee on this ship, or as space debris. Here's to making it through one more day, Amara replied, clinking her imaginary glass against his. The team sprang into action, transforming the chaotic innards of the Mockingbird into something resembling order, or at least a close approximation. Holt busied himself with recalibrating the controls, muttering under his breath about the perils of spacefaring and the betrayal of technology. Decker, meanwhile, did his best to hide anything that looked remotely valuable, including the stash of questionable origin hidden in the storage bay. Let's hope they don't look too closely, Amara said, overseeing the flurry of activity with a mixture of pride and trepidation. Her crew might be a ragtag bunch of misfits, but they were her misfits. As the Imperial boarding party approached, the tension in the Mockingbird's cabin was thick enough to cut with a knife. Provided said knife was made of solid steel and wielded by someone with excellent hand-eye coordination. Remember, act natural, Amara reminded them, her smile tight. Just simple traders trying to make a living. The boarding party arrived, their armor gleaming with the kind of polish that suggested they spent more time buffing it than fighting. One of them, presumably the leader, stepped forward, a woman with a face as hard as the Empire's resolve. Inspection team ready to board, she announced, her words as clipped as a buzzcut on a recruit. State your cargo. Holt spoke up, his voice tinged with just the right amount of obsequiousness. Mostly perishables, ma'am, some machinery parts, nothing unusual. The leader's gaze swept over them, eyes sharp as a hawk's. Very well. We'll see for ourselves. They moved through the ship with methodical precision, inspecting every nook and cranny with the thoroughness of tax auditors and the warmth of a Siberian winter. Amara kept her expression neutral, heart pounding in her chest loud enough that she was sure the entire crew could hear it. This was it, their darkest hour. One misstep, one overlooked detail, and they'd be finished. But the minutes dragged by with agonizing slowness, and miraculously, the inspection team found nothing amiss. The officer turned back to Amara, her expression inscrutable. "Looks like everything's in order," she said, a hint of reluctance in her voice, as if she'd been hoping for an excuse to make their day worse. Amara nodded, exhaling slowly. "Thank you, officer. We appreciate your diligence." "Just doing my job," the officer replied, her tone implying she'd rather be doing anything else. "You're free to go, but remember, we'll be watching." As the boarding party departed, Amara felt a wave of relief crash over her, threatening to knock her off her feet. They'd done it. Somehow they'd managed to bluff their way out of what felt like certain doom. Decker flopped back into his seat, a grin splitting his face. "And they say miracles don't happen." Holt chuckled, the sound tinged with disbelief. "I can't believe that worked." Amara allowed herself a small smile, the tension slowly ebbing from her body. "We may be idiots, but we're damn good idiots." Zorath's voice cut in, the AI's tone almost approving. "Congratulations, Captain. You have successfully evaded immediate capture." "High praise from our digital overlord," Decker quipped. "Let's hope we can keep this up." With the Empire's ships drifting further into the void, the Mockingbird and her crew were left in an uneasy calm, the knowledge that they'd narrowly avoided disaster hanging in the air like the lingering scent of burnt toast. "All right, team," Amara said, feeling the weight of the universe settle back on her shoulders, albeit a little lighter now. "Let's see where this crazy ride takes us next." As the Mockingbird sailed on into the unknown, the crew knew that their victory was but a temporary reprieve. The universe was still out there, vast and indifferent, its challenges endless. But for now, they were still flying, and that was enough. "For the record," Amara said, her voice carrying a hint of the irreverence that had seen them through thus far, "I'm starting to like this live to fight another day thing." "Here's to more days like today," Decker replied, raising his cup in a toast to survival, however fleeting. And so, with a mix of grim determination and gallows humor, the SSN Mockingbird continued its journey. A testament to the indomitable spirit of those who dared to defy the odds and carve out their place among the stars, one darkly humorous step at a time. The SSN Mockingbird creaked and groaned as it drifted through the indifferent void, a testament to human ingenuity, or desperation, depending on who you asked. Inside, the crew was nursing their post-inspection relief, with the all-encompassing satisfaction of prisoners who'd found a chink in the warden's armor. Captain Amara Linth, seated in her throne of duct tape and hope, thumbed through the ship's logs with the air of someone pretending to be busy. In truth, she was avoiding the chilling realization that had settled in her gut like a particularly unsociable houseguest. They couldn't keep dancing with death forever, not unless they learned some new steps. Her gaze drifted to the console, where Zorath's avatar, a disembodied eye that looked like it had seen too much, sat perched. "Zorath, enlighten me. What else are you hiding in that dusty digital brain of yours?" Zorath's response was as dry as a desert martini. "Captain, my programming prohibits unauthorized access to certain files. However, recent events have activated a subroutine pertaining to historical archives." Historical archives, Amara echoed, her curiosity piqued. She'd never been one for ancient history unless it involved ancient debts, but desperate times called for desperate curiosity. And what do these archives contain, besides the complete works of galactic bureaucrats gone mad? Zorath's monotone could have put a hyperactive child to sleep. The archives include comprehensive data on Earth's technological evolution. Some entries are labeled as critical insights into past human ingenuity. Amara's eyebrows shot up. Human ingenuity, eh? Last I checked, that was synonymous with creative excuses and duct tape solutions. Decker, lounging nearby with the grace of a sloth on holiday, looked up with mild interest. "You mean there's a stash of old Earth tech lying around in the ship's memory banks, and we're only finding out about it now?" "Apparently the AI runs on a need-to-know basis," Amara said dryly. "And it thinks we didn't need to know until we were one inspection away from being space compost." Holt walked over, rubbing the back of his neck like it owed him money. "You think there's something useful in there? I mean, human history isn't exactly a shining beacon of good ideas." Amara shrugged in that way she did when she was trying to look unconcerned, but actually her mind was working faster than a caffeine-fueled hamster on a wheel. "Might be worth a look. If there's one thing humans are good at, it's turning a bad situation into an opportunity to make things worse or better if we're lucky." "Do we ever get lucky?" Decker asked, not really expecting an answer, for once. Zorath contributed without prompting. "Statistically speaking, luck is a non-quantifiable variable that—" Yes, Amara interrupted. "We get it, Zorath. You're allergic to luck." With a few deft keystrokes, she tapped into the archive, the screen flickering with images and schematics that looked like they'd been pulled from a museum for outdated tech. A few caught her eye: old fusion reactor designs, primitive virtual reality systems, even blueprints for an ancient stealth technology that looked suspiciously akin to magic. "Well, color me intrigued." Amara said, leaning closer. Looks like we've got ourselves a treasure trove of forgotten genius, or madness disguised as genius. The line's pretty thin. Decker leaned over her shoulder, squinting at the screen. Think any of this stuff could help us throw the Empire off our scent? Amara smirked, a plan slowly unfurling in her mind like a galaxy's worth of trouble. If we play our cards right, we might just turn this relic collection into a bargaining chip. The Empire's obsessed with controlling tech. If we offer them something they want, or even something they think they want, you're suggesting we dangle some old Earth tech in front of them like a carrot on a stick? Holt asked, his skepticism evident. More like a carrot on a very long stick attached to a very unstable platform, Amara corrected. But yeah, that's the gist. Decker chuckled, the sound like gravel rolling down a hill. It's risky, I like it. Holt scratched his chin, considering. They might call our bluff, or they might not, Amara countered. Besides, desperation is a great motivator. We're living proof. The crew gathered around, a makeshift council of rogues and outlaws, their expressions a mix of reluctance and reluctant enthusiasm. They were out of good options and rapidly running out of bad ones, leaving crazy as the only viable choice. All right, let's see what we've got, Amara said, diving deeper into the archives with a sense of determination that bordered on reckless. Zorath, highlight anything related to stealth or weaponry enhancements. Compiling data now, Captain, the AI replied, its tone hinting at a sliver of approval, or maybe that was just wishful thinking on Amara's part. Flickering images and schematics filled the screen, each one a potential lifeline or death sentence, depending on how they played their hand. The crew pored over the information, throwing out ideas and insults with equal fervor. These designs look like they were drawn by someone with a vendetta against simplicity, Holt complained, pointing at a particularly convoluted schematic. Form over function was the style back then, Amara replied, her tone wry. Let's hope function's still in there somewhere. Decker peered at the screen, tapping it thoughtfully. What about this one? Enhanced cloaking device. Looks like it could make us disappear even better than your average tax accountant. Amara grinned. Now you're talking. If we can retrofit our systems with that, we might just have a shot at slipping past the Empire's radar. Holt nodded, his initial skepticism giving way to a grudging optimism. It's a long shot, but it's better than sitting around waiting for them to catch us like fish in a barrel. Then let's get to work, Amara said, her voice carrying the weight of the decision. We've got a ship to upgrade and a plan to hatch, and maybe, just maybe, a future to snatch from the jaws of inevitability. As they set to work, the atmosphere in the Mockingbird shifted from one of impending doom to something approaching anarchy with purpose. It was amazing what a little hope, or the illusion thereof, could do. With Zorath's guidance, they delved into the archives, sifting through pages and pages of forgotten brilliance, searching for the pieces that would fit into their half-baked scheme. They debated, they argued, they laughed at the absurdity of it all, and slowly, piece by piece, a plan began to take shape. Holt, ever the pragmatist, had the honor of voicing the group's collective doubt. You know, if this doesn't work, we're going to look like the galaxy's biggest idiots. That's a title we've already claimed several times over, Amara said, a twinkle of mischief in her eyes. This will just cement our legacy. Decker snorted. A legacy built on hopes, dreams, and questionable decision-making. In duct tape, Amara added, patting the arm of her chair affectionately. Never underestimate the power of duct tape and a well-timed bluff. The hours slipped past in a blur of activity, the crew working with a frenetic energy that was half desperation, half defiance. In the end, they had something resembling a plan, though whether it was genius or lunacy remained to be seen. So, what's the verdict? Amara asked, surveying the final product with a critical eye. Decker crossed his arms, a satisfied smirk playing on his lips. I'd say we've got a fighting chance. Maybe not a good chance, but a chance. Good enough for me, Holt agreed, though his expression was tinged with the resignation of someone about to roll a 10-sided dice. Amara turned to Zorath, the AI ever-present yet unobtrusive, like a ghost no one had the heart to exercise. Zorath, can you handle integrating this tech into our systems? If an AI could look smug, Zorath would have done so. Instead, its response was predictably matter-of-fact. Affirmative, Captain. The integration process will require temporary shutdown of non-critical systems. Great, let's not blow us up in the process, all right. Decker raised an imaginary glass, to not blowing up. Holt followed suit, and to pulling one over on the Empire. Here, here, Amara replied, raising her invisible glass high. Let's see if we can make being human worth something in this universe after all. With that, the crew dispersed, each member taking their place in the upcoming madness. The Mockingbird felt alive, charged with a purpose that defied the odds stacked against them. As they prepared for the final stage of their harebrained scheme, Amara sat back, watching her crew with a mixture of pride and trepidation. They were a motley crew, bound together by necessity and a shared defiance of the universe's apathy. We might just pull this off, she muttered to herself, allowing a small, hopeful smile to creep onto her face. And if we don't, at least we'll go down swinging. Decker glanced over, catching her words. If we're lucky, we'll do more than swing, we'll knock him out cold. Or at least give him a black eye to remember us by, Holt added. Amara chuckled, the sound blending with the ambient hum of the ship. One way or another, we're going to make our mark. Let's just hope it's a good one. As the Mockingbird powered up for the next phase of their reckless adventure, Amara felt the familiar rush of adrenaline and uncertainty, knowing full well that their fate lay at the intersection of audacity and madness. Ready or not, universe, she murmured, here we come. And with that, they plunged headlong into the unknown, a crew of misfits determined to rewrite their story against the backdrop of an uncaring cosmos, where the only certainty was their own irrepressible spirit. The Mockingbird's cockpit was a beehive of activity, everyone buzzing with a mixture of nervous energy and caffeine jitters. The latest upgrade was a patchwork of long-forgotten Earth tech, theoretical wizardry, and sheer desperation glued together by the hopes of a crew with no time left to lose. Okay, crew, Amara said, her voice laced with the kind of forced cheer only someone facing imminent peril could muster. It's showtime. Let's see if our little Frankenstein's monster holds together long enough to give the Empire a run for their credits. Decker, with his usual irreverence, gave a mock salute. If not, at least we'll go down in history as the idiots who thought they could outsmart the entire Empire with antiques. Always a silver lining, Holt muttered, his fingers dancing over the console as he ensured the ship's systems were ready to do anything but explode. You know, said Decker, his voice thick with sarcasm, I once thought the worst job in the universe was scrubbing hyperdrive conduits, but this might take the cake. Amara smirked. To think all those years of service only to end up in a ship held together by hope and duct tape. What a career high. Career, huh? Holt asked, glancing up from his station. I thought we were more like freelancers with a death wish. Call it what you want, Amara replied, leaning back in her chair, the duct-taped throne that had seen better days. But let's prove we can still surprise the bastards. As the Mockingbird floated through the vastness of space, Amara watched the Empire fleet on the sensors, a cluster of red blips that looked like an angry rash against the dark backdrop. They were closer than anyone with a shred of sanity would want, but sanity was never their strong suit. Zorath, Amara said, addressing the AI eye that blinked on the main screen with an eerie sentience. How's that integration going? The process is complete, Captain, Zorath replied with the calm detachment only an AI could possess. The stealth systems should be capable of masking our approach long enough to execute the plan. Should, Decker raised an eyebrow. Inspiring confidence, as usual. Statistically speaking, we have a moderate probability of success, Zorath elaborated, as if numbers alone could soothe frayed nerves. Amara rolled her eyes. Moderate, right. Just what every gambling man wants to hear. Let's just hope the universe is feeling generous today, Holt muttered, adjusting the ship's trajectory so they aligned perfectly with their intended target, the heart of the Empire's communication network. All right, crew, Amara called out, clapping her hands together with more optimism than she felt. Let's take this relic and make it dance. The Mockingbird's engines hummed, a sound like a lullaby for the doomed. Outside, the void stretched infinitely, uncaring of the tiny speck of a ship trying to defy the odds stacked against it. Amara felt the weight of their mission settle over her like a second skin, tight and uncomfortable. Approaching target, Holt announced, his voice steady despite the chaos they were courting. Health systems are engaged. Decker leaned back, arms folded, like a ghost in the wind. Or a fart in a spacesuit, Amara countered, her grin sharp and mischievous. Either way, let's hope they don't notice us until it's too late. The screens blinked with incoming data, the Empire fleet looming closer. Amara could feel the tension in the cockpit, a palpable thing that thrummed between them all. She'd been in tight spots before, but this was a whole new level of crazy. Ready for Phase 2, she asked, casting a glance at her crew. As ready as we'll ever be, Holt replied, the resignation in his tone softened by a hint of determination. Decker cracked his knuckles. Let's see if this old tech has some new tricks. Amara nodded, feeling a swell of pride for her ragtag team of misfits and rebels. They were down to their last Hail Mary, but damn if they weren't going to throw everything they had. Execute the plan, she ordered, her voice steady, carrying the weight of their decision. Holt initiated the sequence, the ship's systems flaring to life with a hum that vibrated through the hull. The Mockingbird was a symphony of lights and sounds, each note a step closer to either victory or oblivion. The ancient Earth tech, a relic pulled from the dust of history, sprang to life with a surprisingly modern efficiency. It was a testament to human ingenuity, or insanity, how something so old could still have such a bite. The Empire's ships, a wall of metal and malice, began to flicker on their screens, their sensors momentarily blinded by the chaos the Mockingbird was unleashing. Amara could almost taste the disarray they were causing, the sweet satisfaction of pulling the wool over the eyes of an empire that thought itself invincible. Decker glanced at the screen, where the Empire's fleet was scrambling to adapt. It's working. They're confused as hell. Good, Amara said, her fingers clenched tightly around the arm of her chair. Let's keep them on their toes. With the stealth systems masking their presence and the Earth tech throwing the fleet systems into disarray, the Mockingbird danced through the chaos, weaving a path that defied logic and reason. Zorath's voice cut through the tension like a knife. Empire vessels are attempting to recalibrate their systems. Our window is limited. Holt's eyes scanned the screens, hands poised over controls ready to make adjustments at a moment's notice. We need to move fast. They're starting to get their bearings. Then let's not overstay our welcome, Amara said, the urgency in her voice a whip crack of command. Engage the next sequence. Keep them guessing. The ship shuddered as its systems responded, an orchestra of clicks and whirs as ancient tech synchronized with the Mockingbird's own ad hoc innovations. The Empire fleet was scrambling, their ships a discordant mess of signals and countermeasures. Decker couldn't resist a chuckle, the sound a dry rasp in the tense atmosphere. It's like watching a bunch of headless chickens, or bureaucrats at a dance-off, Holt added, his lips twitching in a rare smile. Amara allowed herself a small grin, her eyes never leaving the screens. The plan was reckless, a gamble with stakes higher than any they'd faced before, but it was working, for now. Zorath, she said, her voice low and measured. Initiate the communication channel. Let's see if the Empire's willing to talk. The AI complied, the interface flickering with the connection attempt. Amara could almost feel the tension in the air shift, a moment of anticipation stretched taut as a wire. Would the Empire take the bait, or were they about to find out just how vengeful an empire could be when cornered? Decker leaned back, his expression the picture of relaxed nonchalance. Think they'll answer, or just blow us to space dust? Only one way to find out, Amara replied, her gaze fixed on the screen as the seconds ticked by with agonizing slowness. Finally, the image of Commodore Volleys flickered into existence, her expression as stern and joyless as ever. If looks could kill, the Mockingbird would have been vaporized on the spot. Captain Amara Linth, Volleys intoned. Her voice as cold and unforgiving as the vacuum of space. I should have expected as much from you and your band of renegades. Amara offered her best smile, all teeth and insolence. Commodore Volleys, always a pleasure. I see you've upgraded your fleet. How's that working out for you? Volleys' eyes narrowed, her patience thinner than a laser beam. What is it you want, Captain? Amara leaned forward, the picture of composure. A simple proposition. We've got something you want, something old, something valuable, and we're open to negotiations. Volleys' expression didn't change, but Amara could sense the shift in the air. The Empire didn't like being cornered, and here they were, playing the role of the fox with the hounds at their heels. Do elaborate, Volleys said, her tone clipped. Amara gestured to the display, where the chaos they'd caused was still evident. We have access to a treasure trove of forgotten Earth tech, the kind that makes your fancy new toys look like children's playthings. How about we make a deal? You let us walk and we share the wealth. The silence stretched, Volleys weighing her options against the backdrop of a disrupted fleet. Amara knew the Empire's mind as well as anyone could, their obsession with control, their disdain for uncertainty, and here was a situation ripe with both. Decker watched the exchange with interest, shooting Amara a glance. Think she'll bite? Amara shrugged, her smile never wavering. Hope springs eternal. Finally, Volleys spoke, her voice carefully neutral. You propose a trade, Captain. Your lives for outdated schematics. Amara's grin widened. Not just any schematics, Commodore, the kind that could shift the balance of power. Imagine what you could do with a fleet that actually worked as advertised. Volleys considered, her expression giving nothing away. Amara felt the weight of the moment, the precarious balance of the universe tipping one way or the other. Very well, Volleys said at last, her words like a lifeline thrown into a stormy sea. We will negotiate, but know this, Captain. Any attempt to deceive will be met with swift retribution. Amara nodded, the relief a physical thing in her chest. Wouldn't dream of it. Let's keep this clean, Commodore. With that, the connection cut off, leaving the crew in silence, the aftermath of their gamble settling over them like a shroud. Decker exhaled, the tension leaking out of him in a long, slow breath. Well, that was almost anticlimactic. Almost, Holt agreed, leaning back in his chair with a sigh. But I'll take almost over certain death any day. Amara surveyed her crew, the adrenaline still thrumming in her veins. They'd done it. Against all odds, they'd pulled off the impossible. But the game was far from over. All right, you misfits, she said, her voice carrying the weight of their victory and the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Let's see if we can make good on our promises. Maybe, just maybe, carve out a place in this universe that's a little less indifferent. The Mockingbird sailed on through space, a defiant testament to the resilience of human spirit and the unexpected sting of forgotten genius, a ship of rebels who dared to dream of something more amidst the vast, uncaring stars. The Mockingbird cruised through space, a patchwork quilt of tech and tenacity, holding together with the kind of determination only the desperate could muster. Amara Linth, the ship's captain, sat in her duct-taped throne, a grin stretched across her face that was equal parts triumph and disbelief. They'd pulled it off, defied the odds and the Empire, and lived to tell the tale. Now they had a new mission, returning to Earth with their newfound leverage. Decker lounged in his seat, sipping on a mug of what could generously be called coffee. Well, Captain, we didn't get vaporized. I'd call that a win. Amara smirked. Low standards are the key to true happiness, Decker. Holt, ever the pragmatist, checked the ship's systems with his usual intensity. We've got the Empire on our side, for now. Let's not blow it by, being us. Noted, Amara replied dryly, her fingers tapping a rhythm on the console. Let's just get back to Earth before the Commodore changes her mind and decides we're better off as cosmic confetti. Zorath, their ship's AI, chimed in, voice as smooth and devoid of emotion as ever. Trajectory set for Earth. Estimated time of arrival, 43 hours. Plenty of time to contemplate our life choices, Decker muttered, taking another swig of his caffeinated sludge. Amara leaned back, watching the stars streak by. Or just enough time to come up with a really good excuse for why we're late. The journey back was surprisingly uneventful, which for the crew of the Mockingbird was as rare as a clean mug in Decker's quarters. Amara found herself reflecting on their recent escapade. Against all odds, they'd survived. And not just survived, but thrived, in the way only those with nothing left to lose could. As they neared Earth's orbit, Holt brought the planet up on the main screen. It looked the same as ever, blue, green, and disappointingly indifferent. Amara couldn't help but feel a pang of nostalgia mixed with dread. Earth was home, sure, but it was also a place full of paperwork, bureaucracy, and more red tape than Decker's tongue after a particularly spicy meal. So what's the plan when we touch down? Decker asked, stretching lazily. Throw a parade, get commemorative mugs. Amara shrugged. First, we convince everyone we didn't just pull this off with sheer luck. Then, we try not to get blamed when the Empire inevitably realizes they've been played. Optimistic as always, Holt said, his tone somewhere between admiration and exasperation. Hey, nobody ever accused me of being a pessimist, mostly because they didn't live that long, Amara replied, her grin mischievous. As they broke through the atmosphere, the Mockingbird rattled and groaned like an old man getting out of a too comfortable chair. The landing was a bit rough. Amara liked to call it character building. When they finally touched down, she let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Home sweet home, she announced, unbuckling her seatbelt with a flourish. Everyone's still in one piece. Just about, Holt replied, standing and stretching. Though I'm pretty sure I've developed a permanent hunch from all this sitting. Decker clapped a hand on Holt's shoulder. Consider it a battle scar. Chicks dig those. Amara rolled her eyes and led the way out of the cockpit. As they stepped onto the tarmac, the bright sun of Earth hit them like a slap, warm and unforgiving. Small welcoming committee awaited them, looking both relieved and slightly irritated, like they'd been waiting longer than they cared to admit. The leader of the committee, a portly man with a face like a wrinkled bulldog, stepped forward. Captain Linth, I presume. Amara nodded, extending her hand. In the flesh, nice to see someone remembers us. The man shook her hand with a grip that might have been impressive if it hadn't been so clammy. Welcome back to Earth. I'm Administrator Kel. And I must say you're quite the topic of conversation around here. Decker leaned in, stage whispering to Amara, bet he's a blast at parties. Ignoring Decker, Amara focused on Kel. Well, we've got some interesting tidbits for you folks. Ancient Tech Empire negotiations, the usual. Kel's eyes widened and a smile broke through his bulldog scowl. Excellent, the council will want to debrief you immediately. Debrief, Decker whispered again, this time to Holt. Makes it sound like an interrogation. Holt smirked, adjusting his collar. With our luck, it will be. The debriefing was as thrilling as expected, an endless loop of questions, skepticism, and thinly veiled disbelief. Amara handled it with her usual flair, part diplomat and part salesman, presenting their achievements with just the right mix of modesty and bravado. By the time they'd finished, the council members looked more impressed than suspicious, which Amara considered a victory in itself. She'd managed to sell them on the potential of the ancient Earth tech, sprinkling enough half-truths and outright lies to keep them guessing. As they left the meeting room, Decker let out a low whistle. You might have a future in politics, Cap. You've got the whole talk a lot, say nothing thing down pat. Amara laughed, the sound echoing in the sterile corridors. Thanks, but I think I'll stick to flying this heap of bolts. Less bureaucracy, more explosions. Holt nodded in agreement. And let's not forget the exceptionally high chance of getting shot at. Keep talking like that, and you'll make me nostalgic, Amara replied, leading the way back to their quarters. As they settled back into life on Earth, the crew found themselves in an unusual position, being listened to. The Empire's agreement, shaky as it was, had given them a foothold in the volatile politics of space. Suddenly, people were interested in what they had to say, especially about the megastructure they'd fled. It had become a symbol of sorts, a testament to human potential and ingenuity, or insanity, depending on who you asked. Amara knew better than most that the line between genius and madness was thinner than a credit chip. The megastructure was a mystery, yes, but it was also an opportunity, one the humans were uniquely positioned to exploit, thanks in no small part to the ragtag crew of the Mockingbird. With the Empire's power redefined, alliances shifted, and a new era of tentative cooperation began. Humans, once seen as upstarts in the grand cosmic play, now found themselves center stage. It was a role Amara relished, and her crew, for all their cynicism, seemed to thrive in. One evening, as they sat on the balcony of their temporary quarters, an unexpected luxury, Decker raised a glass. To us, the ones who made it back. Holt clinked his glass against Decker's, and to the Empire, who didn't blow us into space dust. Yet, Amara lifted her own glass, the liquid inside catching the light of the setting sun. And to the Mockingbird, the little ship that could, and did. They drank, the weight of their achievement settling over them like a comfortable blanket. It wasn't often things went their way, and Amara knew better than to take it for granted. But for tonight, at least, they'd earned a moment of peace. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Amara looked up, a sense of calm washing over her. They'd done the impossible, carved out a place in a universe that was vast, hostile, and indifferent. And if they could do that, well, just maybe, there was hope for the future after all. So, what's next? Decker asked, leaning back with a satisfied sigh. Amara smiled, her gaze drifting across the horizon. Whatever the hell we want, Decker. Whatever the hell we want. And in the darkness of space, the Mockingbird waited, ready for its next adventure, carrying with it a crew that had dared to defy the odds and the stars themselves.